Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our Plant of the Week podcast, brought to you by Bottlebrush Products, family made in America. Visit Bottlebrush.com to find a retailer near you. Each week, Plant Talk Radio's Fred Hauer focuses on a plant that would be a great addition to your landscape. Now for this week's Bottlebrush Products Plant of the Week.
Well, it is the plant of the week, and it's been the plant of the week this time of year for the last several years. It's almost becoming a habit. I don't look at it as a bad habit, though. Every once in a while, a plant cooperates entirely with our cycle of, let's just say, joyous days. Independence Day. Rockets will glare tonight. However, in your gardens or somebody's garden in your neighborhood, more or less likely for it to be understory or a tall, broad shrub in a background, but it's called Bottlebrush Buckeye. And it's given that name because in the old days when people had to clean out the lantern chimneys and this kind of thing, they literally used a lot of bottle brushes or various apparatus, wires that grabbed onto a white rag that they would shove up through there and clean them and so on. Well, this Bottlebrush Buckeye gives us that on a plant. On almost every stem in a good year, there will be a white tip show up, growing in height. And lo and behold, right about now, averaging in on the 4th of July, there are these bottle brushes that'll run anywhere from 8 to 12 or 14 inches tall on a good year. White. Not quite like the driven snow, because they got a little yellow center to the flower, but they're broad at the base, taper up to probably no thicker than the end of your finger, looking like bottle brushes. Now, the beauty of it is the plant itself. The plant itself grows in shade or full sun, but preferably in shade. To give you an idea of size, they normally will hover in and around 7-8 feet tall, but I've seen them between 12 and 16 feet tall when they get old. And then one time in the Philadelphia area, I won a contest with my ex-professor, as a matter of fact, because he said, no, it can't be Bottlebrush Buckeye, it's too big. So I went down this long, broad hill, and I stepped it off. So it's not an absolute measurement, but I stepped off 185 feet wide on one Bottlebrush Buckeye. Now, it had kept stepping down, stooling, as the nurseryman used to call it. It'll touch down with a branch, then it'll root and go on and on and on. Well, that is bigger than any of us have to worry about, because that's probably 5 human generations of time. But the white then can be given a foreground of some red salvia, some blue ageratum, and we've got the holiday colors right there on hand. So that's the plant of this week, and has been for several years, and probably again next year.
So you can make your own red, white, and blue
That's
garden
right
there.
Exactly.
Where would you put a Bottlebrush Buckeye?
Well, Mark, as I mentioned, sun or shade. I'm going to say, though, that when I have used it in landscape design, it is a challenge to most people to be able to plant in the shade. What to plant, what will grow there, first off, what will grow in competition with other plants and so on, and then what will handle limited light. And it comes down to Bottlebrush Buckeye being one of the very best. The places I've seen it growing the best and being the most floriferous, as a matter of fact, were 2 estate-type homes up along the Lake Erie area, more toward Cleveland, and they were in under some humongous oak trees. Now, there is good high ambient light under big old oak trees like that, or for that matter, any woodland tree. And yet there's probably not more than a few dappled rays of sun in a spot like that in the whole day's length, even on a good day. So high ambient light to significant shade, because I planted one more or less in the burning sun when we moved into our home 34 years ago, and I put it in a spot where the 2 adjoining trees would indeed get bigger, taller, and then reach over the top of it. And it was kind of a pre-planned thing. I have the advantage of doing that because I supposedly know these plants and what they're going to do. Years went by. The weeping cherry draped down over it. The pine tree next to it, indeed, grew up, and both of those things overshadowed the plant. Well, my wife gets shudders every time I mention this. Honey, take a picture, because she knows that means something's coming down. Well, the cherry had to go for a couple of reasons, because it was crowding other plants too. But the point is that the Bottlebrush Buckeye had persevered under this for 5 to 7 years. Then I cut down the cherry, and the pine continued to block all of the morning sun, and then a spruce on down from that gave this plant only an hour or 2 of daylight. Then it was taken to a nursery, dug up and moved, because it's a wonderful stock plant, so to speak, because there's no, well, let's just say rapid propagation on these. That's why they're so darn expensive as a scraggly little plant. one Buckeye yields one tree. There's no grafting, all kinds of things that have been tried. It just doesn't work. Anyhow, the plant would probably be best in the edge of a shaded area, a background of a flower bed, where you need something 6, 7, 8, possibly someday 9 feet tall or so, that gives a background, and spreads out, either quite informally if you let it do that, or you can prune it as a small tree. I actually did that one time. We thinned out the bottom of the plant and made it up on 3 or 4, well, actually it was 5 stems. And it was a little tree, a little tiny, almost large bonsai type of thing, about 8 feet tall, 8 feet across, craggly, straggly, little legs under it for branches. But it was a beautiful thing. The only one in the world that looked like that.
Thanks again for listening to our podcast, brought to you by Bonide Products at Bonide.com. Plant Talk Radio offers other podcasts as well, including our daily Your Gardening Question podcast and our weekly Plant Talk Radio, all available on iTunes or your preferred podcast player. If you have a plant suggestion for Fred, send him an email, fred@planttalkradio.com.